Yesterday, LeBron shared a story that during the 2011 NBA lockout, he, quote, started training to be a football player just in case. He said he switched his entire lifting routine and started clocking his 40-yard dash time. Shannon, I got to get your take on this. Are you surprised LeBron was training to be a football player?
Yeah, especially that late in his career, Skip. I mean, that's not something that you just pick up. I mean, you have to get used to taking those hits. You have to understand how to fall. Everybody just can't get out there and say, like, okay, I just took a... You have to learn how to fall, Skip. And then you have to have senses to understand where those licks are going to be coming from. So, Skip, I am a little surprised that he trained like that. Clearly, it didn't hurt anything. He led the, if I'm not mistaken, he led them to the NBA Finals that year. So I am surprised, Skip. I'm surprised that he still has aspirations and he still has the mindset of a football player. Now, he was an outstanding football player in high school, two-time All-State wide receiver, and I think that would probably be the only position they could play. He'd be more like a Harold Carmichael, Skip. You remember Harold Carmichael, I think 6'8.5". I know Harold very well, 6'8.5". He's going to have to play on the edge. He's too tall to play tight end, Skip, so he needs to be outside the numbers, use his athletic, his jumping ability to jump up and catch the pass, jump up and catch passes. But I am surprised that Skip that he would even venture to train like that, considering that a basketball player and his shot, and you don't want to be tinkering with, doing bench press and putting on that type of muscle to throw your shot off in the slightest. So I am a little surprised that he would even venture out to train like that. So, yeah, I am surprised, but we know how much he loves the game of football. The Cowboys, I don't know, for some ungodly reason that's his favorite team, but that's a story for another day.
No, it's a story for today, because that is the story.
No, it ain't. No, it ain't.
So, Shannon.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I was shocked that LeBron would acknowledge that during that lockout year, he and his trainer named, what's his name, Mike Mancias, who was also a born and raised Cowboy fan, that they decided that they would go all in. I just got visited by my daughter, Hazel, here. She just ran upstairs, so forgive me for that. She might jump up in my lap, but I'm going to keep going. So the point was, Shannon, that they started training for football in that they were doing heavy bench press, and they were timing LeBron in the 40. And I would love to know what he could time, because I believe he could have run 4.5. I could be wrong at 6'9", 250 or 60, but I think he's gifted enough, athletic. What do you think? 4.6, 4.7? I don't know. I'm going to guess 4.5.
Well, Skip, if he goes to a speed coach, because the start is everything in the 40, so if he can, obviously he's a long strider. Yeah. So if he can, his first 10 is going to tell the story. But I'm saying if he were to train at that age, he probably could have run, Skip, I probably believe he could have run 4.6. He probably could have run 4.6, 4.65, which is, for someone that tall, Skip, that's moving.
Okay, so they were even doing sled drills, like blocking sled drills, where he's trying to learn how to power drive into blocks.
Right.
This was serious business. So my first thought was, and I'm not taking a below the belt shot here. I'm serious. Remember, LeBron was coming off that first finals with the Heat, and he had a rough time. Games 4, 5, and 6, he just melted down and disappeared. And I started thinking last night, is it possible that he was thinking, maybe I should try another career? Maybe I should try football before it's too late? And again, Maverick Carter brought up the fact that Jerry Jones went so far as to send him a contract. And I think it was real, like a make good sort of, come to camp and be one of our, be a Dallas Cowboy. And that LeBron's got that contract framed on his office wall. And LeBron acknowledged that he still has dreams about playing pro football. But he says, I never get out of the locker room. I never actually step on the field, and then I wake up or the dream changes. So it's still in his psyche that football was that big a deal to him. And I do believe, Shannon Sharpe, I believe he could have been very good at football. And I know we talk about, could you take the physicality of it? I have often questioned LeBron's mental toughness, but I don't question his physical toughness. He takes a lot of shots. I know they're just basketball shots, but he takes a beating, a Shaq-like beating, almost a Jordan-esque beating against the bad boy Pistons. I think he could take the quote-unquote punishment, and to your point, I think he could revolutionize pro football. Again, this would be back, in his younger days, but that he could have been split out as some sort of hybrid tight end, Jimmy Graham-esque. Jimmy Graham, obviously a former basketball player at Miami. And I think at 6'9", he would have been really difficult to guard, especially in any red zone goal line situation. The prospect of it was that I get it. I do think that this could have happened, but to me, I wondered if, was he thinking, I failed at basketball and now I should prepare myself for football? Well, that's a story, man. And obviously he grew up a Cowboy fan. I get it. They're everywhere. It's America's team. But he did say that he and his trainer were thinking of, he called it Irvine, Texas, but it's Irving, where they used to play at Old Texas Stadium. Irving. By that point, they were already moved to Jerry World over in Arlington. But the point was, he gets it. He wanted to be a part of that. His trainer wanted him to be a part of it. And it's shocking to me that he went so far as to go into full football training mode. And I, for one, would have loved to have seen what would have happened. What did happen was, to your point, he went back and they were able to take advantage of what I call the baby Oklahoma City Thunder, and he finally broke through and won and said right after the game, yep, baby Thunder, and he said, it's about damn time. And I said, you got it. Amen, brother.
But Skip, you train, you run, but it's a different mentality. It's a different type of training for football and training for basketball. Because you play a position, you got to lift some heavy ass. You got to lift some heavy ass weight. You got to move some weight, and it's a lot different. It's a lot more running in basketball, but it's a lot because you got to get your body used to absorbing those blows. And I think the thing is, and it was so long, Skip. It's not like Michael and Tim Tebow playing basketball or playing football and then going to play baseball, which is a non-contact sport. You got to get used to. I'm talking about people. So I believe LeBron, if he had said, you know what? Yeah, I know I'm tall and I like basketball. I believe if he'd have devoted his mind to it in high school and said, this is what I want to do, I believe he could have done it. Because, Matt Barnes, he was a football player, but he's like, I want to play basketball. Matt definitely has the mindset to have played football. So it's a different mindset playing football as opposed to basketball. But I believe if LeBron set his mind to it back when he was younger and says, this is what I want to do. Now, I don't know if he'd have been in football what he became in basketball, Skip, but I do believe he probably could have made it.
I think he could have beyond made it. I think he could have been a Pro Bowl hybrid receiver. I don't even know what you would have called him. I agree he wouldn't be a blocking tight end. I don't know, maybe he could if he put his mind to it, but I would think you would split him out in the slot or even sometimes outside, because I do believe LeBron, when I watch him on fast breaks, he looks like he could run 4.6, 4.5. And if he could run 4.5 at that point back in 2011, he could have devastated defenses because he could occasionally run by, especially if you put a safety or a linebacker on him, he would run by safeties and linebackers. I do think he would have been a revolutionary football player. And seriously, I think if Jerry gave him a contract, I don't think it was for show. I don't think it was tongue-in-cheek. I think they would have, in fact, Dallas has a long history of inviting, other athletes, obviously basketball players or track and field performers to play for them back in the Gil Brandt days. So Bob Hayes, there you go. Ronaldo Nehemiah tried it at one point. Remember the great Pete Gent, who could write as well as he played? He was a basketball star at Michigan State. So they had a long history of this. And, boy, would that not have brought down the house? That could have been LeBron's Michael plays baseball story, except LeBron playing for the Cowboys, it would have stopped the sports world. It would have been the biggest story of 2012, and yet, ironically, the biggest story became LeBron finally breaks through and wins his first ring.
But Skip, you were, I don't know if you were in Dallas at the time. Skip, it's difficult. So no matter how great an athlete you are, when you train, I mean, that's why we have to give kudos to Deion and Bo Jackson. When you're a professional athlete in one sport and you can go to another sport and be good at it, if not great, Skip, because look at Too Tall. Skip, Too Tall was an outstanding defensive lineman for the Cowboys. Man, that joker went to boxing and the dude almost beat him to death. Little old dude beat the brakes off Too Tall. So it's not easy. People just think, well, he's great at this.
Yeah,
you were there,
I was there. It was in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and the opponent was the immortal Jesus Meneses. That's who he couldn't beat that day. It was a tough day for Too Tall. He was like 2 feet taller than Jesus.
He was, but the mistake that he made is that he went to New Mexico, Skip. He went to altitude. You better go somewhere you hadn't been.